Well, friends, this is Jim with Science Talk. Want to discuss with you issues that farmers will face. Farmers are going to be facing with double trouble as the world warms. And no, we're not talking Stevie Ray Vaughan here. At risk from heat and drought in a warming world, farmers face double trouble in two or more great farming regions at once. Remember, it's not only the temperature increases, but the changes in humidity. And so, as I've discussed with you guys before, dry areas will become drier, wet areas will become wetter. So now we're looking at heat and drought impacting farmers, impacting the crops, which means less food for us. And as human populations increase, the demand for space, for energy, for food is going to increase. To be quite honest, this is not sustainable. Something is going to give. You cannot just, you need land to house people. You need land to grow food. But the area of land that is suitable for both is very small and is dwindling. You can't exactly grow food up in Ellesmere Island. You can't grow food in Death Valley. Not that food that humans can live on. So we're facing an issue of increasing population, putting extra pressure and ever more increasing pressure on energy requirements, food requirements, housing requirements, and so forth. As I said, something has to give. This is not sustainable. Just a simple idea of carrying capacity alone informs us that there's going to be a massive corrective event, as you will, that will drastically reduce human population. And of course, on a side note, the way things are going between the West and Russia, we could have a hot war soon. That might solve everything. Hope not. Hope cooler heads will prevail, but you never know. So, U.S. researchers have confirmed that continued global warming means farmers face double trouble, a heightened possibility of a suddenly hungrier world, right? Just mention that, and ever higher average global temperatures increase the probability of devastating heat and drought in two great agricultural regions of the world simultaneously. So we're going to need more fuel, more food, more energy as well, more fuel. But heat and drought will decrease crop yields, and as I've discussed that with you before, as well as decrease the nutritional value of what is grown. Researchers at the University of Washington focused on the possible recurrence of 3 shifts in regional climate that combine to cause colossal harvest failure in India, China, and Brazil. This time, California scientists report in the journal Science Advances that they simply looked at the record of temperature change and the mathematical probabilities associated with it. If it's getting warmer everywhere, then it's more likely to be hot in 2 places at once, and it's probably also more likely to be hot when it's also dry in 2 places at once. Now, some exceptions might be Antarctica, where it's very cold and very dry. General principle is warmer air holds more moisture up to a point. Okay. Very, very cold air holds very, very little moisture. Now, that statement was made by Noah Diffenbaugh of Stanford School of Earth, Energy, and Environmental Sciences. He continues to state, when we look in the historical data at the key crop and pasture regions, we find that before anthropogenic climate change, there were very low odds that any 2 regions would experience those really severe conditions simultaneously. The global marketplace provides a hedge against localized extremes, but we're already seeing an erosion of that climate buffer as extremes have increased in response to global warming. For most of human history, Harvest failure has been a hazard, but losses in one region have usually been balanced by gains in another. Now we're looking at losses in multiple regions, thereby any possible gains to offset those losses most likely are not going to be there. Hence the odds lengthening. Climate change brings with it the double jeopardy of low crop yields, along with increased heat, drought probability in two great zones of agricultural production at the same time. The odds of both low rainfall and high temperatures in the same year in both China and India, which are two great farming nations with the two largest populations, were back in 1980 just 1 in 20. Now the odds are 1 in 7. What used to be a rare occurrence can be expected to occur with some regularity. And we have strong evidence that global warming is the cause, said Professor Diffenbaugh. The researchers found that if the world continued burning fossil fuels under the business as usual, nothing to see, keep it doing, the chances that average temperatures would rise well above the range normally experienced in the mid-20th century would, in many regions, increase by 75%. The researchers also found that were the world to honor the pledges made in Paris at the Climate Accord of 2015 to contain global warming to well below 2 degrees C by 2100, the risk of double trouble for two separate regions simultaneously is curbed. In other words, if the nations can keep the warming to under 2 degrees C, then this whole issue of the double trouble is drastically reduced. Extremes of heat by themselves pose a risk to crop yields, and increasingly more parts of the world are more at risk of harvest losses. The California scientists looked at multiple risks in one region at the same time: high winds, storm surges, calamitous tropical cyclone, low humidity, high temperatures, high winds, lethal wildfires. These are the factors they looked at. And then the probability that similar or slightly different multiple hazards could overtake another region in the same year. The implication is that with increasing average global temperatures, the kinds of hazard farmers and communities expect to confront could be about to change, and for the worse. For centuries, societies made decisions based on the probabilities they already understood. Professor Diffenbaugh says the default is to use historical probabilities. Our research shows that assuming that those historical probabilities will continue into the future does not accurately reflect the current or future risk. In other words, it's going to be a lot worse. Therefore, if we use historical probabilities to make assessments, we're going to be making grave errors. So we have to reassess based on the new probabilities. So what it comes down to is heat and drought could affect more than one large, important agricultural region at the same time. This will then create a food shortage. People will go hungry. How long if this were to happen, how long would affected regions be affected? How long before they recover? Or does it become a permanent state? Or does it fail for a year or a decade? We don't know. Not an experiment we really want to try, though. Not a hypothesis we want to test. So we have the increased risk from heat and drought. Of course, increased heat reduces crop yield, reduces nutritional value. So we're going to see probably a cascading effect that's going to greatly reduce our food supply. It's going to lead to increased number of people that are going hungry. And when people are hungry, they get angry, and then that can lead to increased violence. We've kind of seen signs, hints of that as it is now anyway. So I wanted to share with you, it's kind of looking at this issue from a probability point of view. It's still important to do, but it still comes under the general idea that increasing temperature is going to affect our crop yields. And now, not only are we looking at crop yields, but we're looking at devastating multiple regions that grow our food. Not good. Thank you for your time. We'll talk soon. Hey folks, this is Jim here reminding you to subscribe to this channel, to share my videos, tell others of the work that I do here. I also ask that if you are not already a patron at Patreon, to please consider becoming a patron at Patreon. You can find the information in the description box below the video. I'm asking you to help support the work that I do. I do not take any money from corporations or from any other sources, so the information I share with you is the actual science as it comes out of the peer-reviewed journals. So there is no BS, there's no propaganda, there's no agenda. It's just I present the science and I explain to you what it means, or at least my interpretations of it, based on my own experience as a scientist. I want this channel to grow. I consider, while I discuss many different topics here, you notice I do focus a lot on climate issues. I consider climate change to be the most pressing issue facing humanity today. Thus, I consider it important to disseminate this information to a wider and wider, more and more people. And I need your help to do this. So, yes, please subscribe. Please tell others of the work that I do here. Please share my videos on social media platforms, with your social media groups, what have you. We need to get this information out there. So for those of you who are supporting me on Patreon, I thank you greatly for your support and continued support. It does mean a lot to me. So together we can get this information to more and more people. Thank you. Thank you for your support.